Welcome to my insider's guide on visiting Dry Tortugas National Park. I have a lot to cover, so this is going to move pretty quick. National Park is, of course, home to Fort Jefferson, but before we go inside, I'm going to start with talking about the Yankee Freedom Ferry. This is a private company that has a contract with the park to bring visitors out every single day. The boat brings out a maximum of 175 people per day, and it is a 115-foot catamaran. It departs Key West at 8 a.m. every morning, so get there early. You're going to want to get a good seat.
If you're coming to camp, you'll want to check about parking before you arrive. This parking garage only allows 24 hours maximum.
The parking garage is right across the street from the terminal. They use the same terminal as the Key West Express. The security can check your bags on your way in. They will for sure check your gear if you are camping. This is inside the terminal. You'll want to, again, get there early. Send one person from your group to the desk to check in. You will get a number. They call the groups up in groups of 25, so the lowest number will board the boat first. So you'll have your choice of seats. Mostly the security is going to be looking for drugs, drones, spray paint, anything that can pose a hazard to the boat, the passengers, or be contraband once you're out at the park. The boat has several seating areas. There's inside, downstairs, inside, upstairs, and then an upstairs, outside, sun deck. Sun deck sounds nice, but make sure you have sunblock or sun protection because it can get brutal. The ferry provides a sack breakfast and sandwiches for lunch. I recommend that everyone take motion sickness medication in the morning, at least an hour before the trip. This will prevent any motion sickness that you may have during your voyage. Just have a cup of coffee to knock off the drowsiness. There's a link here for the Yankee Freedom Ferry. Now that we've arrived at Fort Jefferson, actually before we go inside, I think we're going to back up and we're going to talk about Key West Seaplane adventures. So the Seaplane is also a private company, and it also has a contract with the park to bring guests out. They do provide snorkel gear, drinks, and a small cooler to bring out. The ride out takes about 45 minutes and has phenomenal views. Often you can look down and see sharks and sea turtles. Each plane has a capacity of about 11 people with the captain. There is no crew on board the airplanes. They take off from Key West International Airport and touch down right in the harbor at Garden Key. Now, the pilot does not stay on the island with you. He will typically drop you off and come back and pick you up. They have 2 planes running 5 trips every day, weather depending, and they do sell out fast. Here's the link for Key West Seaplane Adventures. Before we head inside Fort Jefferson, I want to talk about the final way to get to the park, and that is on your own boat or on a charter boat. Now, I have not made this journey personally, but what I can tell you is a powerboat usually takes about 3 hours, sailboat between 12 and 14 hours, depending on the weather. There are no services available at the national park. They don't provide fuel or water. Upon arrival at Garden Key, you will want to check in at the main dock. This room here, you'll want to become very familiar with it, read through some of the brochures and pamphlets and the permits. That way you can keep yourself out of trouble, keep yourself safe, and just generally be more prepared for your visit there at the park. There's a brochure on boating, and it has all of the GPS coordinates for the mooring balls. I've included a link to the National Park Service's official page for Dry Tortugas where you can find more information and maps.
The main anchorage is right off Garden Key. Just make sure that you're not blocking the channel or the seaplanes. Garden Key can be accessed only from either one of the dinghy beaches, the boat slips, or the main dock when the ferry is not present. There is no launching or landing of vessels of any kind, including paddle boards, from the swim area, the swim beaches, East Beach, Bush Key, Long Key, nowhere else except for the designated areas on the dinghy beaches and the docks.
With boats coming in and out, there is no swimming from either dinghy beach. The other one is over by the seaplanes and is all sand and a little nicer. There again is no swimming in the harbor from the seaplane beach, from the dinghy beaches. You don't want anyone getting hurt. Please remember there is no collecting of seashells at the Dry Tortugas. You cannot collect the shells or the coral or the driftwood. It is a protected area and everything needs to stay here. The only things you are allowed to take, again, are photos, memories, coconuts, and sea grapes.
Welcome to Bush Key. This is the one that is connected to Garden Key, also the one where the terns will nest every year. That's why they close this island occasionally. Keep in mind that there's no fishing or swimming from Bush Key. Most of the other keys are closed to visitation. That includes East Key, Middle Key, and Hospital Key. Loggerhead has its own set of rules, which we will cover later. The designated swimming area goes from South Beach all the way around the fort on the outside of the moat wall and connects to the North Coal Dock ruins and North Beach. The moat is closed to all activities. That includes swimming, fishing, kayaking, paddleboarding. Do not enter the moat for any reason. It is not a pleasant place to be. On this end of Garden Key, we have East Beach. Depending on the waves, current, and wind conditions, this beach can be wonderful or it can also be covered in marine debris. You may want to have your sandals with you. You are allowed to take trash from the island, but please don't collect it unless you have a method to remove it.
This is a designated smoking area. There are butt cans mounted on the ends of the railing. There's no smoking on the main dock or inside the fort. On the main dock, you'll have these picnic tables here. The campers will use those in the morning to stage their stuff to be loaded on and off the boat. These hand carts can be used by anyone to move stuff to and from their campsites. Just make sure they're brought back. This is the fee station where you can pay your entrance fee or camping fee. This is right on the main dock. Inside here is where you can find information on fishing and maps and some of the closed areas and the regulations. The weather gets posted here every morning with a few warnings about rat poison and lightning. Your boat permits go in here. There's a radio where you can get weather information. All the brochures, there's one on camping, kayaking, your map of the park, all of that can be found in here. including the Superintendent's Compendium, which is your master book of rules, and this map here can be found in the Dry Tortugas brochure. There are also changing rooms, men's and women's, on the main dock. Please keep those clean. They are open 24 hours a day. There's also a fish cleaning station on the main dock. There's no running water available, but it's a good place to cut your fillets, right over by the small slips. This is a fuel shed. The fuel is for employees and generators and boats. It is for government boats, not fuel for visitors. They do have a helicopter pad for emergencies and if the Coast Guard is doing training, but hopefully we don't need to use the helicopter pad for anything other than training. This overlooks the campground overflow, some day use area in the front of the fort. There are also campsites over in the trees. Day use picnic tables will be marked day use. On your way over to South Beach, the campground will be on your right, the restrooms will be on your left. The restrooms get closed every day while the Yankee Freedom Ferry is at the main dock. There are only 4 compost restrooms and they cannot handle the capacity of 175 visitors a day. The restrooms are kept in good condition. They do have lighting, toilet paper, hand sanitizer. That'll be the only trash can you can find. Please do not fill it with trash from your boat or your campsite. They also are equipped with a vent fan. Over in the campground, there'll be charcoal grills available. There are black storage totes if you want to keep your stuff safe and dry. Each campsite will have a picnic table that is marked camper use or camp use. It does tend to fade in the conditions out at the park. Over at the corner of the fort where these palm trees are at, actually I think there's only one left after the last hurricane, this information kiosk here has some helpful information as well as more entrance fee and camping fee envelopes. It's one envelope, fill it out, and drop it in the silver box on the right. Continuing around the right side of the campground is another way to get to South Beach. There are a few campsites over here in the trees. On this side of the moat, again, no swimming, and the swimming area goes all the way from North Beach to South Beach. South Beach is the most popular beach and probably the most shallow and the sandiest, has finer sand. The employees have 3 diesel generators to run the island. The exhaust comes through these 3 first windows. We also have a desalination plant at the park so that the employees and staff have drinking water and are able to shower at the end of their long work days.
The employees do live out here in Fort Jefferson for about a week at a time. Then they go back to Key West and restock on groceries.
Once you do go ahead and get in the water, just be careful not to touch or kick anything. All the coral is very sensitive and we don't want to damage anything. You'll see plenty of wildlife, plenty of fish, plenty of coral. Give everything its space. If you are able to bring a flashlight, an underwater flashlight, snorkeling at night is pretty phenomenal. Highly recommend it. The moment you've all been waiting for, we can finally go inside Fort Jefferson. Okay, now this is not going to be a history tour, and I'm not going to spout a bunch of facts, just some things to keep in mind as you're exploring around the fort and what's what. Inside the only entrance to the fort is the Visitors Center. It's one of the few air-conditioned, actually I think it might be the only air-conditioned place on the island, so if you are overheated or warm in the afternoon, it is a good place to hang out. The bookstore is also in here where they sell magnets and postcards and t-shirts and hats, just a few necessities. The visitor center in the second room is also where you can stamp your passport. The park has 3 different stamps, one for the fort and one for each lighthouse. Out here in the parade ground at these benches is where they do their 20-minute guided talk from the Yankee Freedom Ferry every day at 11 o'clock. This is not a cemetery or a gravestone. This is a memorial to one of the surgeons that helped combat yellow fever. I think him and his son. The small detached powder magazine. It's probably the most overlooked. I never really see anyone ever go in here, but it's kind of a neat place. It's quick, it's small. Bakery is probably the scariest place in the fort. It is dark and ominous. These are cisterns. Goes down into a cistern. There's a lead pipe from the top, from the roof, that funnels water down. These openings are in every pillar. They are not trash cans. Please do not throw junk into the cisterns. These covers here do cover up another opening to the cistern. This is the hot shot furnace. It was recently, within the last 10 years, not reconstructed, but repaired, restored, preserved for future generations. The original Totten shutters were removed, and these are replicas. Again, wear shoes inside the fort, please. These iron pegs sticking out of the ground used to hold down a metal track that the cannons would slide on. It's a good way to hurt your feet. We do have one Cuban chug on display in the fort. It is, I believe, from 2007. Just in the last year, 2022, there was an influx of Cuban migrants, so there are other Cuban chugs on the islands at the moment in various stages. These are the ruins for some of the barracks. There was engineer officers, there were soldiers. They were in disrepair and had collapsed before the National Park Service took custody of the islands.
Dr. Mudd is one of the park's claims to fame. He has one cell on the first level that's referred to as his dungeon. This is his second cell, which is directly above the sally port into the fort. The employee areas are closed to the public. Please respect the privacy of those that do live there. The fort has about 425 windows, so actually not a lot of privacy here on this island. Be careful walking around the fort. There's a lot of old metal. It's all historic, so it can't really be removed. There's also a lot of coral, rubble, and rocks. Just keep your shoes on and appreciate the stone masonry as you explore Fort Jefferson.
That on the ground there is called Gray Wacky. I don't know why it's called that. And again, I filmed over several days and this was a little bit rough. Most days are not like that. These signs with the walking soldier will help guide you around to some of the things to see around the park, such as the chapel. There's interesting masonry work in the chapel. It's very impressive, especially that they did this in the 1830s. That basically sums up Garden Key and Fort Jefferson. Next up, I'm going to talk a little bit about Loggerhead Key for those of you that are lucky enough to make it over there. Loggerhead Key is difficult for a lot of people to make it over to. If you're there for the day on the Yankee, you are not going to make it. If you're there for the day on a seaplane, you're not going to make it. Campers who bring kayaks can sometimes get over there. Otherwise, you have to come out on your own boat or on a charter boat. The island is usually only inhabited by 2 to 4 people, whether they're artists or volunteers or interns doing a sea turtle study. There's typically a few people over there staying in the lighthouse keeper's house or the kitchen house. Loggerhead Key does not have any services provided to the public. No food, no water. There small medical response if needed. Loggerhead Lighthouse is decommissioned and closed to the public. This is a designated swimming area at Loggerhead. It is marked by white buoys. These striations, these rocks, they are natural. That is not a concrete seawall. The dock house, as you can see, is long collapsed. Please stay out of it. There are stickers and cactuses on Loggerhead, so again, carry your sandals with you. This is definitely when you want to have your sunblock and water with you. Thank you for watching my video. If you found this helpful, please hit the like button below. If you want to see more of my videos, you can hit subscribe. And I hope you have a great and safe trip out to the park and get across that off of your bucket list.